Okay, I'm doing this kind of backwards since I did the engine running yesterday. I thought last night maybe I could just go through how I built the motor, um, why I built, or what it's for. Really, obviously it's for drag race purposes with that big cam and high compression. But there's a few things I wanted to touch on as far as the build goes, and in reference to the LS7 style that I was talking about in the running video. What I did was I found a good 1972. It was a December 1972. I think it went in a 1973 truck. It's a 289 cast, number 454. It has a 72 cast date on it, late December, I believe. So I started with that. It had domes, or excuse me, not domes. It had flat tops, which immediately came out. They look in really good shape. Still got them. And then I sourced. The next thing I did, well, I tore it apart. It was a great core. The bores were good. I got lucky, and it had a 7416 forged steel crank in it. So I lucked out there. So I had a good bottom end to start off with. Then I sourced out some original over-the-counter LS7 rods, L88 pistons, and the rods have the big bolts in them. Excuse me, the big bolts in them, 7/16. I went with modern DuraShield. Excuse me. I cut it all up for other purposes, but I use Speed Pro DuraShield coated bearings on everything. It has that gray coating on them that's slippery. I use it on the mains, the rods, and the cam bearings as well. But during the process, I use this super slick, snotty substance that really did good as far as keeping the bearings lube while I was turning it over and building the engine and all that. So started off with a good core, got rid of the original pistons. The bore was perfect, and then I got the pistons, the high domes. I think they were 52 or 53 cc, or negative 53 with the chamber. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. Had the pistons, L88 pistons, floated on the dimple rods. So that's that's the bottom end right there. That's what I say LS7 style. And for the heads, I sourced out some 990, just regular GM heads. I believe these are 1978. You can't see it. Both of them are 1978. The chambers are 118s with 219 188 valves, and there's intake valves are back cut. There's no hogging out on anything. The roof of the exhaust has been raised and polished. The chambers have been polished as well, which is great because I'm running E85. I'll get to that in a minute. I decided to go with an electric water pump because, one, I've never done it before. I wanted to see how it went reliability wise. I noticed right off the bat it was really quiet. I thought it'd be louder than it was. So that works out fine. It's a Be Cool big aluminum, I think it's like a giant 2-core radiator, and just a regular Summit dual fan, Summit brand. I'm sure it's some other brand, but I don't know. This billet bracket was an eBay thing. Since I'm running E85, oh wait, let me backtrack here. as far as the Valvetrain goes, I went with Lunati throughout. It has a Lunati solid roller, Voodoo solid roller, 680 lift. 680 lift, and duration on this bad boy is advertises 293 exhaust. At half it's 263 on the exhaust side. So 680, 263 exhaust duration at half there, and it has a center line of 110. Or excuse me, lobe separation, center line. The lobe separation of 110. So solid roller lifters, which you can't see. I got Lunati 8700 7/16 .165 thickness 3/8 taper push rods. These are Lunati Voodoo 1.7 roller rockers, fully rollerized. It doesn't have the Voodoo thing on it, which I could care less. I got adjustable guide plates, which I'm kind of in between a love and hate right now, because every time I have to do something I have to realign them, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it lines them up nice. With this one here needs realigned, and I'll be doing that today because I have to go through and retorque the heads after it's been warmed up. I'm running a Power Master high torque starter because I tried a regular GM starter right off the bat. I tried regular GM starter and it blew the nose off of it, cranking it up. So I went out and got a, which was my plan to begin with anyway. It's just a Power Master high torque starter, 2 wires. It's a straight or a staggered bore, or staggered pattern on that. These are just Hooker competition headers, 2 1/8 I believe. It has a Mylodon 7-quart oil pan with the pickup, and that would be the bottom end. I already mentioned the MSD. That's a Hurricane style intake. I say style because it's like some off-brand, and it's kind of a trial and error thing at this point, because I'm not sure. I wanted to make sure that it ran like I wanted it to before I invested in something that was a little bit more expensive, which I probably will do. This is a 2-inch riser, Holley HP E85 carburetor, HVC2 coil, same thing on this side. I'm running the R45 plugs on this one. That's the motor, the Procam alcohol pump, clockable if you want to. I have it run straight in, straight out. Everything is straight in, straight out on this motor as far as the fuel goes. Straight in, straight out. There's no real major bends or anything like that on this one here. Standard thermostat, no issues there. Regular front, actually I took a front end out of a newer model truck, 5-lug, everybody does that. I ran the battery cable for now is inside the truck, and it has a master. It has a master switch obviously, and then I put my switch panel where the radio used to be because I'm not needing that anymore. Pretty bare bones in here. I'm getting ready to put a different gas pedal in it. That's about it on the inside. Not a whole lot to it there. Anyway, so I built this motor specifically to run high compression because that's what I wanted. I wanted higher compression. I wanted more than 10 and a half. I didn't really want to run pump gas, I guess. So, and I knew E85 was an option. It's not that far from my house. There's several stations. So I went ahead and went for it, and it runs perfect. Unless of course I forget to properly tighten down number 4 exhaust rocker arm. Anyway, So E85 is easy. It's just fuel. You gotta remember, with all your connections, you can't really use anything. This is what I use to seal the fittings. Gasola E-Seal, specifically made for pretty much anything, biodiesel or anything like that. It does take bigger fuel lines because it needs more volume. It takes 30% more E85 than it does regular gasoline to operate this. The fuel line runs all the way back. It's actually relatively cheap. That does not have foam in it. It's just a bladder inside of the tank. So there's not going to be any issues there. There's really no issues with alcohol, or excuse me, E85 at all anyway. It's like I said, it's a 454. That's the build. I built it to purposely run in the mid to high RPM range, and I think it's going to do that just fine. If you have any questions on the E85, it's real simple. It's basically a carburetor, fuel lines, and you know, all the other stuff. The regulator has to be alcohol. The pump has to be compatible because the diaphragms, there's all these horror stories about alcohol eating things and all that, but I pretty much built this around E85. I went for manual brakes. It does have a Saginaw manual box on it, so there's absolutely no vacuum lines on this engine whatsoever. Did that on purpose as well. So that is the build. I went through the heads, the intake, the carb. I haven't really messed with the carburetor yet. I've set the 4 corners. I really haven't done anything else to it. I just kind of let it run. I will be routing the fuel lines and the battery cables in different locations eventually. I'm not too worried about that right at this second. So that's how I did the build, and that's what I meant by LS7 style. It doesn't say XCH anywhere on it, and it never will. I'll never have a license plate that says LS7. It's just the same parts as you could get at your Chevy dealer at different times. These are 78 heads. You could have went to your dealer and said, I want 990 heads to replace my LS6 heads that went bad. 7416 was a LS7 crank. The heads 289 was the LS7 block, then they went to a 445. So there you go. I wanted it to kind of perform similar to that because I knew that was a very good design that was a proven performer, so I wanted to kind of go with that, but I also knew that the fuel nowadays is crap, so E85 is the way to go. And a funny thing is, I go to the gas station to get my E85 and somebody's filling up with gas in their flex fuel vehicle, and they always look at me filling up my E85 and wonder what, ask me, if I'm going to be running my lawnmower on it or something like that, and I'm like, no, it's for a drag motor and this and that, and they have all these questions. There's a lot of myths out there about E85, but this 1972 454 runs like a top on E85. So there you have it. I'm doing a lot of talking, I know, but I wanted to really get on E85 and how I built the engine. I built it from scratch. I didn't buy it pieced together. One other, I guess, very extremely important thing that I did is I had the rotating assembly balanced. I wouldn't have done it without having it balanced and checked out. So the bottom end is balanced on this particular engine, and I guess that's about it. Like I said, it's pretty neat. It sounds good. It burns your nose, kind of irritates your eyes when it's sitting in here running. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that it runs cleaner than it's a cleaner burning engine than most of your flex fuel vehicles out here, or even a Prius. I've heard that somewhere too, because they have a gas engine in them that just runs on regular gasoline. So it's kind of a weird thing to have an old 72 engine that is cleaner than all these flex fuel vehicles that run around that nobody ever puts E85 in, because of E85 eats absolutely everything. If you dump it on concrete, E85 will eat a hole in the concrete. Well, I don't think so. Oh, and besides that, I went to the gas station. Fuel, regular fuel, was $2.35. E85 was $1.90. So there you have it. I want to go over the motor. Hope I wasn't too long-winded. I won't get to the back yet because I'm not done with that part yet. I'm still researching my power glide. So this is the follow-up to the run. Now I got to torque the heads, go through the valve lash again, and I'll talk to y'all later.